Winnie Byanyima is the Executive Director of UNAIDS and an Under-Secretary General of the United Nations. A passionate and long-standing champion for social justice and a global leader on inequality, Ms. Byanyima leads the United Nations efforts to end the AIDS pandemic by 2030. Ms. Byanyima believes that healthcare is a human right, and she is the co-founder and co-chair of the People's Medicines Alliance, advocating for equitable access to medical technologies that help to prevent and respond to current and future pandemics. Before joining UNAIDS, Ms. Byanyima served as the Executive Director of Oxfam International. Previously, Ms. Byanyima was elected for 3 terms in the parliament of her country, Uganda, where she led the first parliamentary women's caucus, championing groundbreaking gender equality provisions in the county's 1995 post-conflict constitution. Ms. Byanyima led the establishment of the African Union Commission's Directorate of Gender and Development and served as Director of Gender and Development at the United Nations Development Programme. She founded the Forum for Women in Democracy, a Ugandan non-governmental organization, and has been deeply involved in building global coalitions on social and economic justice. Ms. Byanyima has co-chaired the World Economic Forum and served on Prime Minister Trudeau's Gender Advisory Council during Canada's G7 presidency. She has also served on the Global Commission on Climate Adaptation, the International Labour Organization's Global Commission on the Future of Work and the World Bank's Advisory Council on Gender and Development. She holds a Master of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from Cranfield University and a bachelor's degree in Aeronautical Engineering from the University of Manchester. Ms. Byanyima is the recipient of numerous global and national awards, including the 2023 Hall of Fame Award bestowed by IFSA, International Women's Forum South Africa. She has been awarded 4 honorary doctorates from the Universities of Manchester, UK, Mount St. Vincent's, Canada, Cranfield, UK, and Free State, South Africa. Winifred Byanyima is a Ugandan aeronautical engineer, politician, human rights activist, feminist, and diplomat. She is the Executive Director of UNAIDS, effective November 2019. From May 2013 until November 2019, she served as the Executive Director of Oxfam International. She served as the Director of the Gender Team in the Bureau for Development Policy at the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, from 2006. Byanyima was born in Barera district in the western region of Uganda, a British protectorate at the time. Her parents are the late Boniface Byanyima, one-time national chairman of the Democratic Party in Uganda, and the late Gertrude Byanyima, a former schoolteacher who died in November 2008. Winnie Byanyima attended Mount St. Mary's College Namagunga in Mukino district. She went on to obtain a bachelor's degree in aeronautical engineering from the University of Manchester, becoming the first female Ugandan to become an aeronautical engineer. She later received a master's degree in mechanical engineering, specializing in energy conservation from Cranfield University. Professional career. Following her training as an aeronautical engineer, Byanyima worked as a flight engineer for Uganda Airlines. When Yoweri Museveni, Ugandan president since 1986, started the 1981 to 1986 Ugandan Bush War, Byanyima left her job and joined the armed rebellion. Museveni and Byanyima had been raised together at the Byanyima household as children, with the Byanyima family paying for all of Museveni's education and scholastic needs. Museveni, Byanyima, and her husband Kizza Besigye were combatants in the National Resistance Army, NRA, during that war. Both Byanyima and her husband have since fallen out with President Museveni because of his repressive undemocratic rule despite his earlier stated convictions. After the NRA won that war, Byanyima served as Uganda's ambassador to France from 1989 until 1994. She then returned home and became an active participant in Ugandan politics. She served as a member of the Constituent Assembly that drafted the 1995 Ugandan Constitution. She then served 2 consecutive terms as a Member of Parliament, representing Barera Municipality from 1994 until 2004. She was then appointed Director of the Directorate of Women, Gender, and Development at the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. She served in that capacity until she was appointed Director of the Gender Team in the Bureau for Development Policy at UNDP in November 2006. Executive Director of Oxfam, 2013 to 2019. In January 2013, Byanyima was announced as the next Executive Director of Oxfam International, replacing Jeremy Hobbs. Byanyima began her 5-year directorship at Oxfam on May 1, 2013. In December 2017, she announced acceptance of an offer from Oxfam's Board of Supervisors to serve a second 5-year term as Oxfam International's Executive Director. In January 2015, Byanyima co-chaired the World Economic Forum in Davos. She used the forum to press for action to narrow the gap between rich and poor. The charity's research claims that the share of the world's wealth owned by the richest 1% of the world population had increased to nearly 50% in 2014, whereas 99% shares the other half. Oxfam's figures are strongly contested by several economists. In November 2016, Byanyima was appointed by United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon to the High-Level Panel on Access to Medicines, co-chaired by Ruth Dreyfus, former President of Switzerland, and Festus Mogae, former President of Botswana. Executive Director of UNAIDS since 2019. Byanyima was appointed as the Executive Director of UNAIDS in August 2019, by the United Nations Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, following a comprehensive selection process that involved a search committee constituted by members of the UNAIDS Program Coordinating Board. In her new position she concurrently serves as a United Nations Under-Secretary-General. In addition to her role at UNAIDS, Byanyima also serves a 2-year term as a member of the World Bank Group's, WBG, Advisory Council on Gender and Development. Since 2022, she has been a member of the Commission for Universal Health convened by Chatham House and co-chaired by Helen Clark and Jacques Kikwete. At the recent 2024 International AIDS Conference in Munich urged Gilead Sciences to allow lenacapavir to have generic licensing access to the unbacked medicines patent pool so that whereby cheaper generic versions could be sold under license in low and middle income countries similar to Gilead Sciences' existing relationships with the MPP and Indian generic companies' access to HIV medicines. Other activities. Verkov Prize for Global Health, member of the Prize Committee, 2022, present. Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria, member of the board. Equality Now, member of the advisory board. International Gender Champions, IGC, member. On July 7, 1999, Byanyima married Kizza Besigye in Ansambia, Kampala. Besigye is the former chairman of the Forum for Democratic Change, FDC, political party in Uganda. They are the parents of one son named Anselm. Byanyima is a member of the FDC, although she has significantly reduced her participation in partisan Ugandan politics since she became a Ugandan diplomat in 2004. She has 5 siblings, Edith, Anthony, Martha, Abraham, and Olivia. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has appointed Winifred Winnie Byanyima of Uganda as the next Executive Director of the Joint United Nations Programme on HIV/AIDS, UNAIDS. The appointment follows an open and wide-ranging search process. Led by the co-sponsoring organizations and chaired by Dr. Natalia Kanem, the Executive Director of the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, the process included interviews and consultations with governments and other concerned parties through the UNAIDS Program Coordinating Board. Ms. Byanyima succeeds Michel Sidib, who was appointed as Minister of Health and Social Affairs of Mali. The Secretary-General is grateful for Dr. Sidib's leadership of UNAIDS from 2009 to 2019 at the forefront of the global response to HIV and AIDS. Ms. Byanyima brings a wealth of experience and commitment in harnessing the power of government, multilateral agencies, the private sector and civil society to end the HIV and AIDS crisis for communities around the world. Ms. Byanyima has been the Executive Director of Oxfam International since 2013. Prior to Oxfam, she served for 7 years as the Director of Gender and Development at the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP. Ms. Byanyima began her career as a champion of marginalized communities and women some 30 years ago as a Member of Parliament in the National Assembly of Uganda. In 2004, she was named Director of Women and Development at the African Union Commission, working on the Protocol on the Rights of Women in Africa, an international human rights instrument which became an important tool towards reducing the disproportionate effect of the HIV pandemic on the lives of women in Africa. She holds an advanced degree in mechanical engineering, energy conservation and environment, from the Cranfield Institute of Technology, and an undergraduate degree in aeronautical engineering from the University of Manchester. She speaks English, Kiswahili, and some French. Ms. Byanyima is married with one son. The Secretary-General wishes to extend his appreciation and gratitude to the UNAIDS Deputy Executive Director of Management and Governance, Gunilla Carlsson of Sweden, for her service as Executive Director ad interim. Thank you for watching this video.